Hello, I'm Pat Ryan, and I'm back to tell you another story. Now, this is a kind of a spooky story, but it's a scary story for people who don't like scary stories. It's really all right by the end, I promise, and it's mostly for fun. Now, I heard this story from a caretaker, a custodian at a school in Scotland. He told me this story. Now, this is the story. Once upon a time there was a teeny tiny old house, and in the teeny tiny old house there lived a teeny tiny old woman, and she lived all alone. But she was never lonely. She always had loads of company. In the daytime, all the children would come and play in her garden, and she'd mind them. And they'd share their sweeties or bring her little posies of flowers, and the old woman, why, she would give the children homemade cakes and homemade biscuits. And she would tell the children stories. Now, at the end of the day, the mothers and fathers and stepfathers and stepmothers and aunties and uncles and grannies and granddads, they would come to collect the children. And they'd bring the old woman a box of candy or a basket of food. And they'd tell the old woman stories, all the news and all the gossip. You know how grown-ups are. They come to collect you at the end of the day to take you home from school or from playing with your friends. And they tell you to hurry up and get a move on. And then the grown-ups stand there and talk and gab and blather along for ages. And you have to wait for them, don't you? I know. All they do is gossip. Well, this teeny tiny old woman had loads of company in the nice time of the year, when the days were long and the days were warm and the sky was bright. But in the cold, dark time of the year, she never had any company. She had loads of visitors in the summer, but in the winter everybody would stay in their own houses by their own fires, and in the wintertime the old woman would get very lonesome. Well, it was coming up to the time of the year when the summer turns into winter, when the days grow short and the nights grow long, when mist falls down from the sky and frost covers the earth. The time of the year that we call Halloween. And on Halloween night, the old woman had no visitors at all. Now imagine that. No company at all on Halloween. Oh, she was so sad. She let out a sigh. Oh. She realized it was the beginning of winter. She said, I'll have no company for ages and ages. And then she said out loud, oh, dearie, dearie me, I'm so lonely. I wish I had some company. I wish I had some company. If I had some company, I would make them a cup of tea. Well, let me tell you a secret. You should never ever make a wish on Halloween, because if you do, it might come true, but it might come true as a treat, or it might come true as a trick, because it's Halloween. No sooner had the old woman made the wish than the wind began to howl, and thunder crashed and lightning flashed, and the house trembled, and down her chimney fell a pair of iron legs with great big feet. And these iron legs, these metal legs, they walked out of the fireplace and stood there in the middle of the old woman's sitting room. And the old woman, she looked the legs up, down, and all around, and she said, oh, dearie, dearie me, what have you come for? And up on a roof there was someone, because a voice shouted down the chimney, I've come for tea. Well, it looked like she was going to have some company. So the old woman went and she filled the kettle with water, and she put the kettle on the fire to boil the water to make the tea. But you know, it does take a kettle a long time to boil. And the old woman got bored and lonely, and so she let out a sigh. Oh, and then she said, oh, dearie, dearie me, I'm so lonely. I wish I had some company. I wish I had some company. If I had some company, I would make them a cup of tea. Well, please remember this. Do not make wishes on Halloween, because if you do, they might come true, but not in the way that you like. No sooner had the wish been said than suddenly the wind was raging. Thunder and lightning danced about the house. and the little place shook and trembled, and down the chimney came a body, an iron body with long iron arms and claw-like hands. And the body bounced out of the fire onto the iron legs, and now the old woman had a giant iron body standing in the middle of her room. A body with no head. The old woman, she looked this giant iron body, all made of metal. She looked it up and down and all around. She said, "Oh, dearie, dearie me, what have you come for?" And up from the top of the roof, a voice shouted down the chimney, "I've come for tea." Well, it looked like she was getting her company, bit by bit. But unfortunately, when the iron body fell down the chimney, it knocked over the kettle and it spilt all the water. So she had to go fill up the kettle again, put more water in it, put it back on the fire, and wait for that water to boil so she could make the tea. Well, you know what they say. It takes a long time for a kettle to boil, especially if you watch the kettle. And so, watching the kettle, it just took so long to brew that she let out a sigh. Oh. And then the old woman said, "Oh, dearie, dearie me, I'm so lonely. I wish I had some company. I wish I had some company. If I had some company, I would make them a cup of tea." Don't go making wishes on Halloween. If you do, they might come true. And it might be nice, but it might not be nice. Well, no sooner had she spoken that wish than again the wind was roaring all around. And lightning flashed and thunder crashed and the house trembled, and this time down the chimney fell a great, big, fat, ugly iron head. And the head bounced out of the fireplace onto the neck of the iron body, and now a giant iron man stood there in the old woman's sitting room. Well, she looked him up and down and all around, and the old woman said, "Oh, dearie, dearie me, what have you come for?" And the iron man said, "I've come for tea." Well, she had her company. Unfortunately, when that head tumbled down the chimney, it knocked over the kettle and it spilled all the water. So the old woman, she had to fill the kettle up again with water and put it on the fire so she could make the tea. Well, you know, it takes a kettle a long time to boil. Well, it certainly takes the kettle in this story a long time to boil, and the old woman got bored and lonely again, and she let out a sigh. Oh, and she said, "Oh, dearie, dearie me, I'm so lonely. I wish I had some company. I wish I had some company. If I had some company, I would make them a cup of tea." Oh, my darling dears, please don't ever make a wish on Halloween, for if you do, it might come true. But it might come true as a treat, or it might come true as a trick. No sooner was the wish made, the house began to shake and to tremble as the wind blew all about, and the thunder and the lightning crashed around, and down the chimney fell a set of sharp, pointy, iron teeth. Teeth like knives, teeth like razors, teeth like swords. And the teeth bounced out of the fire and they popped into the mouth of the Iron Man. And the Iron Man bashed and crashed and smashed his teeth. And the teeth were all bright and shiny in the red light of the firelight of the room. And the old woman looked at those sharp teeth and she thought, oh, here's trouble. But did she keep her mouth closed? No. She said, "Oh, dearie, dearie me, what have you come for?" And the Iron Man mashed and bashed and smashed his teeth again. And he said, "What have I come for?" "You ask me why I have come, old woman? I'll tell you." And he smashed and crashed and bashed his teeth again. He said, "You ask me why I come? I'll tell you why I've come, old woman. I have come for tea." And so she made him a cup of tea. Now, see, that wasn't scary at all. I'm sure you didn't jump. All the old fellow wanted was a cup of tea. And so they had a lovely cup of tea and a lovely visit. And that is the story of the Iron Man. Well, I hope you like that story. And I hope you like the stories that we're handing on to you. And if you do, tell them to someone else. And if you get a chance to go to the library, once the library is open again, if you ask the people there, a lot of the stories we're sharing with you, you can find in books, and you can find people who tell the stories in different ways, the same stories. There's so many stories around. So thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again.